So we need to talk about Carol Danvers, and that can be quite a long-winded conversation. I mean, just discussing her origins alone. What do we talk about? Her first appearance as Carol Danvers? Her original origin story as Ms. Marvel? Her retcon origin story as Ms. Marvel? Or after she had lost her powers in an attempt to rediscover herself as Carol, just to be hit with an evolutionary beam that brings her to her most powerful form ever, as binary? Or do we skip all of that to after she burns those powers out and rejoins the Avengers as Warbird? Now that is a lot to cover. Just to tell you that Captain America suggests she drop the Miz and take up her old mentor's mantle and command the authority that she deserves. I mean, that is what happened, but it's so much more than that. Carol Danvers first came onto the scene in the late 1960s, appearing as the head of security for NASA at Cape Canaveral. At the time, it was the world's most advanced site for experimental rocket testing. There, she came into contact with Dr. Walter Lawson, who was really the Kree space captain named Mar-Vell. And Carol had an intuition, one that is enhanced when she gains her powers, but it had always been there. And she had a gut feeling about Lawson from the start. She was untrusting of Lawson, rightfully so, as he was hiding his identity from her. But she had an infatuation with Mar-Vell, who had saved her life on more than one occasion. And that infatuation put her in the crosshairs of Mar-Vell's sworn enemy, Yon-Rogg. By issue 18 of the original Captain Marvel series, Rogg kidnapped Carol and brought her to the site of a forbidden Kree technology, a device known as the Psych Magnetron. The device enhances one's natural abilities well beyond their normal capabilities, as well as bestowing wondrous powers to ordinary humanoids. Yon-Rogg's plan was to use it upon himself to gain the strength necessary to compete with a now Negaban-wielding Mar-Vell. However, during the battle, the machine was struck with a laser and caused it to malfunction and explode. Though Mar-Vell was able to shield her from the impact of the blast, she was exposed to the radiation of the Psych Magnetron, and her genetic structure was permanently altered. Now, at some point, they did go back and state that Carol's mother was a Kree and that the Psych Magnetron only activated those dormant genes that already existed within her. And I mean, that's cool and all, but I don't really see the need for this distinction, but if other fans enjoyed it, then all the better. Carol appeared a few more times after that, but since her failure to spot or stop the Kree operating right under her nose, her credibility as a security agent had been severely damaged. But writing a best-selling novel about her experiences at NASA and with the Kree and other things that she had seen caught the eye of a New York editor named J. Jonah Jameson. So in 1976, when Carol appears in her own original ongoing series titled Ms. Marvel, Jameson offers her a job as editor of Women's Magazine, a mag owned by the Bugle, and her first assignment was to cover the new female Marvelite flying through the skies. And during these early adventures, she encounters a villain named Deathbird, who comes back into play later. But in these early stories, Carol wasn't aware that she was Ms. Marvel. She would suffer these horrible headaches and periods of blackout brought on by her seventh sense, an ability gained by her amplified intuition. So whenever she would sense immediate danger, she would black out and her dormant powers would emerge. It takes some time, but Ms. Marvel is able to put together who she is and consolidate her two personalities into one. And after crafting a new costume with fellow superheroine Janet Van Dyne, Carol joined the Avengers. Ms. Marvel has a number of appearances with the Avengers during this time, but everything changes when she crosses paths with the mutant Mystique. Mystique brings in the then villainous Rogue, who zapped Carol of seemingly all of her Kree powers. There's an excellent episode of the 90s X-Men animated series titled A Rogue's Tale that deals with Rogue's side effects of stealing the powers and mind of Carol Danvers. And for a long time, that was that. The depowered Carol Danvers ended up working alongside the X-Men. Even without her powers, she had been a colonel in the Air Force and was a skilled pilot. But then things take another massive turn when Carol and the X-Men are attacked while on board the Shi'ar flagship by Deathbird, that villain from before, who is actually the sister of the Shi'ar Empress Lilandra. Deathbird aligned herself with a race called the Brood. Now, we're not going to get too concerned with who they are at the moment, other than to mention that they had been at war with the Kree for some time, and recognizing her latent Kree DNA had performed experiments on Carol. They had used an evolutionary ray on her that did far more than reactivate her dormant powers. The evolutionary ray brought Carol to her fullest potential as the being known as binary. In her binary form, she is insanely powerful. I mean an absolute cosmic level powerhouse, capable of recharging the sun. If you want to know more on binary, the story starts at the tail end of Uncanny X-Men 161 and runs through issue 164 when she finally gains her powers. Then she runs off with the Starjammers to aid them in their quest against the Brood. Now, you could find X-Men Spotlight on Starjammers issues 1 and 2, but honestly, the Starjammers trade paperback by Dave Cockrum covers the entirety of the story, the Uncanny issues as well as the Spotlights. But eventually, Carol burns herself out, quite literally in fact, running non-stop with the Starjammers, never resting, and feeling her powers dwindling, she returns to Earth to rest and recover at the Avengers mansion. Here, she takes on the codename Warbird, and she overcomes a litany of struggles, including alcoholism, to finally stand up and be the hero that she was meant to be. She stands to uphold the law and fights alongside Iron Man and the pro-registration Avengers during the superhuman Civil War. Even when things got tough, the way that she handled Arena, the new recruit, proved that she was a capable leader and mentor, which is how she ended up leading the mighty Avengers, the New York branch of the 50-state initiative. All of this plays out in Ms. Marvel Volume 2, which runs through several major crossover events, like the formation of the new Avengers, the Civil War, the Initiative, Secret Invasion, and Dark Reign. It is well worth the read. But after all these stories, after conquering all these hurdles, it boiled down to a fight with the Absorbing Man. While teamed up with Captain America, the Absorbing Man calls her Cap's secretary and shows her complete disrespect. But Carol reminds them both that she was a colonel and outranks Cap before taking out Crusher Creel. After the fight, Steve conveys a sentiment to Carol that he's expressed before, but he feels it is past time for her to take up the mantle of Captain Marvel. She's refuted the idea many times before, saying that she didn't want to take his name. But that's where Cap makes his point. His name was Mar-Vell. Captain Marvel was his mantle, his legacy. Despite if she wants to admit it or not, she took his name a long time ago when she became Ms. Marvel. She's a part of his legacy, and it is time now that she took up the mantle and upheld that legacy with honor. It took much reflection and deliberation, but she agreed, and Carol Danvers has remained Captain Marvel ever since. And if you're looking for a major story with Carol as Captain Marvel, then look no further than the second Civil War event. It is a wild story that leads right up to Secret Empire. Look, I've been rambling about Carol Danvers for a while now. I should probably wrap this up. If you've enjoyed the video, then give it a like, and subscribe if you want to catch more of my content in the future. Until next time, take care.